What was a time when you used a SX move you saw in a PRNO in real life and it ended horribly? My husband is really into stripper PRN. I tried to recreate a move where the man was sitting in a chair and the stripper does a handstand. Thighs resting on the guy's shoulders. Her cooch in his face. Then she twerks. Almost like a seated 69. Lighting and music are perfect. I ask him to sit down. Do a little floor show. Then I pull out my big move. Executed perfectly except as begin to twerk I'll let out the loudest queef right in his face. I tried to pull off a standing 69. I dropped my poor girlfriend on her head. First time I came in a girl's mouth she spit it out in her hand and threw it at me in surprise. It was her first time giving a blowjob. She spit on your ass. Do not a girl up against the glass wall in the shower. Especially not in a rented apartment. That wall is expensive. My GF at the time was giving me a BJ while I was standing up and I thought I'd return the favor by picking her up and spinning her upside down for a standing 69. She got freaked out about being picked up. Farted which made me gag and I ended up giving her a tombstone in the living room of my first apartment. She kinked her neck and hit her foot on the edge of my coffee table while the forward momentum of the drop caused me to slowly fall on top of her bending my dick on her stomach. That emergency room visit wasn't a fun one and the doc couldn't stifle his laughter during our explanation. What I've learned from this thread. Never pick up your ass. We tried the Amazon position and I ended up farting. Pretty much stopped everything. Amazon position? Was this done in packaging boxes? I was on a Tinder date at the time. On top of this guy. He thought it'd be super hot if he grabbed my hips and slid me to sitting on his face. Too bad that we had too much momentum going. I ended up hitting my nose on the backboard of my headboard so hard that it broke. Hot in theory though. Decided to give daring outside SX a go. Drove down a country road and pulled over. Started going at it with my ass hanging off the hood of the car. We hear a car approaching and my partner panics and drops me on my ass. Flat on my bare ass in the dirt as a car comes along while he stands there all nonchalant. Thanks honey. I thought I'd try DP. But then the one guy started sucking the other guy's dick so it never happened. I won't be exploring that any further. Picked GF up. Put her on the dining room table too. Ended up breaking table. Blamed it on the dog. Fun times. Your dog broke the table by eyeing your girlfriend on it? Edit. Thanks Reddit. Now my top comment is about eyeing dogs. I'm 4'11" and my husband is 6'2". We tried to standing up leaning on nothing in particular when he hoisted me into the air and then lost his grip. The man dropped me to the floor like a sack of potatoes. Your username for some reason makes this 10x funnier. I was once trying to do some rough play with my current so. Things heated up in the living room and escalated to me picking her up and carrying her to my bedroom. Once there. In an attempt to manhandle her and show off strength. I chunked her onto the bed like a brute which banged the out of her tailbone and resulted in her crying for 10 minutes. The SX did not continue. Just as a tip. Doing the pile driver is actually kind of hard and uncomfortable. Don't do it unless you have good lower body strength. Instructions unclear. Put girlfriend through the Spanish announce table. We were on the bed and I tried to pick her up and her against the wall while standing on the bed. I didn't know her bed was on wheels. Bed slides out and we go into the gap. My forehead breaks her nose and splits her lip. You still finished though, right? I put my thumb in a girl's mouth cause I saw Dr. Manhattan do it. My finger is not like kissing a battery. And I don't have bangin' blue muscles. Was a mistake. I cock slapped the girl's lips and she started laughing. I don't know how to take that. I would do the same. It's not SI at all and feels pretty damn weird. I was a virgin making out with a girl in bed one night. I didn't know how to ask if she wanted to have sex. So I asked one route. The Australian has been spotted. I repeat. The Australian has been spotted. Was getting SI against a wall and tried to pick her up by grabbing the back of her thighs and lifting. He just slid down the wall and landed bare ass on the floor. One of my smoother moves. Edit. Whoa. Thanks for all the upvotes. Never thought at the time that the most embarrassing thing I'd done would be worth something in the future. Ex-girlfriend thought it would be hot to hit me during sex. I was standing by the side of the bed and had her face up laying down on the bed. Then she proceeds to give me the most fierce backhand I've ever received right to the cheek. Instant boner killer. And my face was redder than the devil's dick for about an hour. Tried to last an hour. Didn't last an hour. Just wait for daylight saving time. I asked my wife to call me Papy Poppy during sex and forgot about the request. A few days later she yelled out OHH Papy. I stopped my fantastic moves and looked her in the eye and said, who the hell is Bobby? Edit. Yes Papy. Considering how people pronounced quesadilla, I went with the better phonetic sounding word. That boy ain't right. Not me but my roommate. He and his girlfriend tried something while standing up. Heard a primal scream. She runs out naked screaming for us to help. Ran in and his dick was broken. I cannot explain what I saw. A penis pointing entirely in the wrong direction, looking blue and red. He was in agony but could not touch it. We called ambulance. It was pretty serious, we heard later. He had to stay in the hospital a couple days. To this day we don't know what they were trying. Not seen in a PRNO. But in a chat room while I was in college. I was talking to a woman online. She was going on and on about how her husband used to hold cough drop on her while going down on her and she loved it. So I tried it on my girlfriend, now wife. It's been almost 20 years. And the image of her holding her crotch, jumping around and yelling at burns. IT burns. Remains seared in my memory. You got trolled, sir. I was trying to blow a load like Peter North. I was going for distance. So I pulled out and looked down to enjoy firsthand the glazing I was about to put spray across my partner. I came in my own eye. When I was a teenager, the guy kept sticking his finger in me then into my mouth. It was annoying and I asked him to stop multiple times. He wouldn't, so I figured I would do this thing I saw on Winamp PRNO stream. I snowballed him. He really wasn't about that life. Ended up vomiting off the side of the bed. He never did the finger thing again and we broke up a few months after. Edit. Thanks for the gold, friend. I never expected this to even get an upvote, so that was a nice morning surprise. I laid my wife on the edge of the bed with her head hanging off and tried to face her. She wasn't having it. I once used a numbing condom without realizing it. She finished and I wasn't even close. I'm weird. She removed the condom and started sucking me off. After a couple minutes she attempted to articulate that her mouth was fearing funny. We checked the box and laughed for days. Edit. Sweet. Sweet karma. Sweet. Sweet gold. How did you just spit on my PSSY? Mia. Yeah, well that just killed the mood. I'm gonna leave now. I had a female friend tell me women were just as nasty as men. I explained that if I was receiving a blowjob and the girl spit on my dick, I'd find it hot. If I was eating a girl out and spit on her vagina, things would be over. She responded with, well, that's just gross. I accepted that as concession. My ex-boyfriend was going down on me for the first time and all of a sudden his head jerked up and his face was covered in blood. I freaked out thinking I started my period 3 weeks early. Turns out he got a bloody nose. He was very embarrassed, but I thought it was the funniest thing ever. Cock slapped her in the face. All the tears. Who was the one crying though? I tried to the pizza delivery guy. Needless to say, I didn't even get the pizza. Older lady in wealthier neighborhood would request me by name, 19-year-old college student at the time, and answer the door in a silk sheer bathrobe and no pants. Finally on the 4th visit or so she propositioned me and I wanted to turn her down nicely because great tip money. So I said UHH. Wouldn't your husband be upset? And she goes no sweetie. He wants to watch Nope the hell out of there. We started sending our greasiest 30-year land blob to that house and then they stopped ordering entirely. I think they got the hint. I think it was trying to have upside down rough sex. Then accidentally knocking out the person eyeing me. For the first 3 minutes I thought I killed him. Fun times. My girlfriend at the time jumped at me while I was standing. But physics didn't agree with the movement and I wasn't braced well. Instead of catching her and proceeding to bang her like James Dean, I lost my balance and started falling forward. She ends up planting her feet, backpedaling off balance for 3 or 4 steps into a small rolling nightstand with a lava lamp sitting atop it. The lava lamp falls and shatters. Of course she ends up bare-assed in the resulting lava, water, glass shard mixture. I ended up removing glass shards from her butt cheeks for the next 20 minutes. My now wife and I had set up a webcam. This was before smartphones. And were watching ourselves on our TV while filming ourselves. She was riding me reverse cowboy. And I was like, this is super hot. So out of the blue I started slapping her clit with the tips of my fingers from behind her. Hadn't ever thought of doing it before. But it seemed like a good idea at the time. What could go wrong? Well, wouldn't you know? She shriveled up like a tulip in a drought. Turns out having your clit slapped isn't always the most pleasurable experience. What's the worst that could happen? Well, I don't know. But the blue balls I got after we had to stop from her first freaking out, then us both laughing uncontrollably about it, have both worked to prevent me from attempting that particular maneuver since. Had her do reverse cowgirl and thrusted like crazy. I was going too fast and slipped out, punching straight into her anus. She screamed bloody murder and dragged her ass across the floor like a dog. It took her a full week to recover. We're still together and will be going on 5 years after this month. Edit. Stuck my finger in his ass and he farted. I laughed. He went limp and kicked me out while avoiding further eye contact. You triggered his self-defense mechanism. Girl. Throat tying. Where she was laying on her back and I was thrusting down her throat. Lots of puking. Very little fun. I tried the cream pie move. Now I pay $1,700 in child support. Mum walked in on me getting pegged. I kneed my ex directly in the nuts trying to do some move that was evidently above my skill level. I read in Cosmo that using pop rocks during a blowjob was exciting. I told my friend who I was visiting and when we were at the store she picked some up because it just seemed like a good idea at the time. I was sleeping across from the bathroom and in the middle of the night I heard her husband barreling to the bathroom yelling if try again 420 said she read it putting sand in your mouth would feel good, would you listen? Full stop. The next morning, over breakfast, he thanked me for suggesting his wife turn her tongue into a piece of sandpaper before going down on him but politely asked I'll leave my SX tips to myself in the future. I exclusively jerk off with 40 grit sandpaper so I'm not understanding the issue here. Learned to rub my girlfriend's clit while she rode me, ended up squirting on her roommate's suede futon in their dorm. Was a dark spot on it till the day we threw it out. When I was 15 me and my girlfriend didn't know she was a squirter. Snuck into my parents' basement at night and we were getting at it, then she squirted and I screamed, "Did you just on my dick?" Woke up my parents and 4 siblings who all knew exactly what had just happened. I'll never live it down. Every time I tried an L, poo was always in the mix. I tried it a few times with an ex-girlfriend and it was great, tried it later with another ex and I could feel a goddamn log in there. No thank you after that. Tried to roll over while still inside her and accidentally threw her off the bed. Tried to spice things up by going at it on the hood of my car in the middle of a cornfield during a rainstorm. Tried a movie bit I'd seen. The old ripping off of the panties. Well, Let's just say those particular underoos might as well have been made of titanium. Not only did I not tear them even in the slightest, but in my haste and horny frustration I pulled on the panties hard enough to pull her off the car. She ended up falling into a puddle and getting a broken corn stalk jammed into her thigh. So, in the end, I got her all wet and screaming. Just not in the way we intended. Guy wanted to lick peanut butter off my nipples and I was like, okay, sure. It was a little strange, but it was something new to try, so why not? Is your partner a dog? In college my ex was riding me sitting with her legs wrapped around me. I picked her up and pushed her up against the wall and put her halfway through the flimsy drywall back first. We finished though because I ain't no quitter. I hooked up with a stripper while I was in college. We played a game where I would grab some food and do something SI with it. She was blindfolded and would have to guess what the food was. Since I was in college, I didn't have much in the pantry, so I grabbed a pickle and ate her with it. She orgasmed, and then when she took her blindfold off and found out it was a pickle, she freaked out. Something about eyeing her with a half-sour kosher pickle grossed her out. Edit 1. Of course my highest upvoted post on Reddit is about pickle sex. I used a thumb. She did not like it. 2008. Had a girlfriend who was much younger than me. One day she was going down on me when I suggested that we try 69. She's never heard of 69 before. I had to stop her from what she was doing, explain to her what it was, and after seeing her horrified reaction, she almost started crying. She was so upset. I not just gave up on the idea, but she became really reticent to have sex with me much more after that, as she wasn't into kinky sex. Then she discovered Twilight and we stopped being physical altogether. Then we broke up. Before I suggested 69, she was all over me. As soon as I suggested it, it was like I told her that I'd kill her family if she touched my penis ever again. Hopefully she has had a few more years to live and experience things and still doesn't view 69 as kinky. It isn't. I mean, there's 69 in PRN. But it's not like I was asking her to do a bareback and L gangbang or anything. And this is why I never understood the appeal of 72 virgins. Give me 72 horny s over virgins any day. Attended detention. Did not get ass blasted by my teacher. First time I came on a girl's face, it got really awkward really quick. Turns out the cleanup stage isn't nearly as cool as the act of doing it. Edit. Fantastic. Been on Reddit for 9 years and my top comment is about jizzing on a girl's face. Boyfriend and I got all in the kitchen, and he boinked me while I was sitting on the edge of the countertop. I've been dealing with a lower spine injury for 2 years now. Sad day for creative eyeing. Not sex, but I decided to DRP my cock across her forehead while she was dozing was highly not appreciated. Upside down in a hammock ended rather abruptly. Nothing too detrimental, but I was giving my boyfriend head in the shower one time very early on in our relationship. He was about to come, so I thought I'd try and be SI by letting him come on my face. I pulled away, and since he wasn't really paying attention, he wasn't aiming, and he came right in my eye. It burned a lot. Edit. Great. My most upvoted comment is about getting cum in my eye. Edit 2. Holy. Thanks for the gold. My husband and I had boob sex once. We never done it before, and for some reason I just assumed that his cum would end up neatly on my chest. He ended up coming all over my face. It was all up in my eyes and nose and dripping out of my mouth, and I was yelping with shock, and he was coming and laughing at me at the same time, and it was just really not a SI time for anyone. Went to let my boyfriend motorboat me. I went for him too enthusiastically and just side slapped my massive tits right across his face. His neck cracked and he flew backwards onto the bed. He was complaining of a sore neck for days. It was honestly hilarious. Purely because I underestimated the strength and weight of my airborne baps. I'm still laughing about that now as I type. Looked like he took a totally unexpected right hook. Isn't it weird that we all have SX and do weird stuff, but then interact normally with people at work and you'd never know? I think about this all the time. All your kinky ass co-workers just sitting there on Monday talking about painting their house. Hooked up with a complete stranger down the shore. We were drunk and she said she wanted to get a bit rough. Started with light choking, then she was screaming for me to spit on her and slap her. I'm usually down for anything, but she went way too far, especially since I did not know her. I got the out of there. I missed the fact that she walked barefoot over a gravel parking lot on the way to her place and she didn't even care. She was basically a Terminator. My ex always thought it was a great idea to try to make me bounce during cowgirl. With my body at a 90-degree angle to his. Not with thrusting or anything that made sense, but by grabbing my hips and trying to move them. Screwing up any rhythm I had going. Painful as hell, and I can only assume he got the bright idea from PRN. I had to tell him to cut that out every time I was on top. I was always on top. I wanted to try talking dirty, so I called her lying. I had a girlfriend who I gave a rim job once or twice before. It wasn't so bad. Apparently she thought it'd be a good idea to try it on me one day. Laying on my stomach on my bed waiting for her to come back. We had just had lots of SX and she was just off peeing. I'm waiting for her to come back when she suddenly springs into the room playfully. Jumps on the bed and straddles my legs. Pens up my ass cheeks. Mind you, I'm a male. With a pretty hairy asshole. She immediately begins licking my asshole. This lasts for a good 1 second before she falls off the bed gagging and almost crying. I'm laughing my ass off, of course. I help her up and we cuddle on the bed together and I'm giving her so much for it. Not that my asshole is particularly gross. But seriously, when has licking a hairy ass ever been even remotely pleasurable? To this day I still don't know what compelled her to do it. I think she tried to surprise me. Thinking she was being playful. Cute and kinky. Still laughing to this day. While on the way to Bone Town I stopped and asked her, have you heard the tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise killed the mood entirely? Well, one of my exes once decided to have spontaneous SX in a kitchen. He and the other guy didn't have lube on them. So they decided to use peanut oil. This was the point where he discovered that this other guy whose penis he had just slathered in oil had a peanut allergy. A severe peanut allergy. I tried to stick my finger in her butt. I think most SX moves in PRN don't go over well in reality. Ever try fish hooking a classy chick? Had to Google Urban Dictionary this. While performing intercourse doggy style, this maneuver involves the pitcher inserting his curled finger into the catcher's mouth and pulling back to degrade the subject or cause pain. A double fish hook involves the same maneuver using both fingers. Rusty fish hook involves fingering the ass of the catcher prior to insertion of the finger into the mouth. A few years back I finished all over my ex-girlfriend's face. Nothing out of the ordinary really, until I took my thumb and rubbed some of it across her forehead and said Simba. No SX for a few weeks after that. Sticking your dick through a pizza box and a pizza cardboard is surprisingly sharp. Obligatory, not me but a friend of mine. Believe what you want. A buddy of mine was a late bloomer when it came to SX with the ladies. So, being a horny male, spent his early adult life using PRN to fill that void. And he was around 24. He took a trip to Malaysia, work related, and ended up living there for about a year. He met a nice girl. They fell in love. And she ended up moving back with him to Canada when he finally returned. Fast forward a few months and we are having drinks at a bar and the conversation turned to SX. Well, it becomes apparent that Buddy has been treating his newly found SX partner like how he's seen ladies treated in P-Renos. Basically he hammers at full speed then pulls out and comes on her face. Every single time. What's more, this is what he thinks is 100% vanilla. Normal SX. She's so complacent she says nothing. He's shocked when we are doubled over laughing at his sincere and innocent nature coupled with his PRN style SX prowess. An ex saw PRN where the girl grabbed the guy's dick with both hands and twisted her hands in opposite directions. She failed to notice that said dick was lubricated. Reversed cowgirl with the girl laying back on top of you, so both of you are facing up. Would have been fine except girls with really big booty can't really lay their back flat on your chest and expect you to stay inside. Thankfully it slipped out instead of broke off.